Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Reinventing Mental Health, where we are looking at root causes for mental health and talking about natural solutions. Today, we have with us Dr. Bradley Shepard. Thank you so much, Dr. Shepard, for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Life is good. Any day above ground's a good day, right?
All right, so please tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
I started out 16 years ago as a chiropractor, and I've been doing that for 16 years. And then, several years ago, I discovered functional medicine, which is exactly what you talked about, trying to find the underlying cause of everything. And so once I discovered that, I'm like, that takes my practice to a whole new level. And so what I do now is I help women in their 40s and 50s who suffer from chronic pain, and I help them guide them to get to the underlying cause of pain, which a lot of times has to do with hormone and nutrient imbalances. So that's one of the things that I focus on.
Okay.
And that's what I've been doing for the last several years now. And it's been very gratifying. I've been able to help hundreds of women just reduce their chronic pain. And I've found this is where it's going to be relevant to you, your practice, and your audience is that when we can decrease that chronic pain, their depression gets better. They feel a little bit more like, okay, I can deal with this. And so it has a huge impact on mental health as well. And it's just another one of those pieces of the puzzle.
Yep. So we see people pretty frequently that come in and they tell us, I've got anxiety, I've got depression, I've got ADHD, but then there is also this pain component, and there's a huge overlap between chronic pain and mental health type symptoms, particularly in women.
Yes, I've noticed the same thing. We're talking the same language here.
Well, so we know research-wise that women are more likely to suffer from autoimmune disorders like depression, and also disorders like anxiety. And we very frequently also see there's hormone struggles, there's nutrient deficiencies. What are you seeing most frequently? And in my practice, and I know in yours, it's going to be really, really different. But what are some of the most common nutrient deficiencies that you're seeing in people?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, everyone is really different. And so that's the thing that I have to do is I take everything case by case. But there's a lot of vitamin D deficiency. You've probably noticed that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of magnesium deficiencies, zinc deficiencies. And believe it or not, a lot of my clients come in and they have absolutely normal labs. Feel like something is still wrong. And sometimes they're telling me things that, okay, I'm thinking this is a thyroid problem, which is huge.
Yeah.
Well, my doctor says my thyroid is normal. We do a deeper test, and sure enough, the TSH is normal, which is the standard test. Thyroid stimulating hormone, that's a standard test. A lot of times it's normal, but then we dive in a little bit deeper. We test T3, T4, which are the active and inactive forms of thyroid. We check the thyroglobulin antibodies, and sometimes those are through the roof. And so sometimes we catch things and I say, okay, I try not to diagnose, but I tell them, okay, you're going to want to take this to your doctor, and he'll probably tell you that you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis.
Mm-hmm.
And they never knew because the testing came back normal. And so that's the thing that I see is a lot of the testing is normal, but when we really look into it, we differentiate between, we do deeper tests, we do more tests, but we also not only look at just the normal ranges, because the normal range is really just an average of a population. So we look at what's optimal for health, which is a narrower range typically. So we'll flag things before they become a problem that their primary care doctor will flag. So those are the sorts of things that I'm seeing.
So we see things, but then we also see where each of the ranges may be normal, but the way that they are not in balance with each other is abnormal.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's all about balance, isn't it?
So we see that with hormones as well as with different vitamins. And then, like you said, some of the thyroid stuff. And doctors, like traditional doctors, aren't testing things like copper deficiency. We've got so many people that when we address some of the copper stuff, we see a lot of other symptoms go away. There's a lot of misinformation and fear around copper. and some of the other metals, but we do actually need all of them.
Oh,
They occur naturally in the environment for a reason. They're in our water. Have you ever heard of crazy water?
no, I've not heard of that.
Okay, so here in the state of Texas, there is a well that has natural lithium in it. And it was actually discovered outside of this town because there was a woman many, many years ago who was psychotic. And they
Mm.
actually banished her from the village. And she went and was living near this well. And because she was drinking from it and it had natural lithium in it, her psychosis went away. And then
Does
they started noticing, you know what? There's not a whole lot of mental health issues in this town. And they went back and they started testing the well. And the deeper they pulled the water from in this particular well, a little bit higher was the lithium level. But it's the natural occurring form of lithium. And it's actually one of my favorite things. It's in all of our grocery stores.
that's really cool.
So I actually refer people, and recommend, what? This specific SNP came up in your genetic profile, and lithium is the thing that is recommending we use. So how about we just use a bottle of crazy water a day? And
That's an easy fix.
yeah, so
That's
simple.
wonderful. Awesome. I love that. The easier the solution, the better the compliance, the more likely it is that we're actually going to do something about it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I see is like a lot of other functional medicine docs will order so many supplements. And I'm like, let's simplify all of this. Let's start with the food and the diet first and then supplement what we need to, rather than just try to sell a bunch of supplements, right?
Yeah. So what is your most popular initial supplement? Because mine is folinic acid.
I actually use whole food supplements and maybe some herbals. Believe it or not, there's one called Metabol Complex because the blood sugar on some of these, unfortunately, is way out of control. And so that herbal complex can kind of help bring that back under control. Of course, we all it won't do any bit of good if we don't cut out all of the refined processed carbohydrates. So the Metabol Complex is one that I use a lot. A lot of people, a lot of my clients need adrenal support. So I'll give them like desiccated adrenal a lot, or Drenamin, which is supporting the adrenals. Liver, almost all of them need liver support.
I just think everybody does these days.
So a lot of the B vitamins are really deficient too. So if they're not eating liver, then I'm going to make sure that they're getting liver in a supplement.
Yes, I love the beef work.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of that stuff I think is going to be pretty common as far as all of that goes. But again, I like to focus on what are we eating or what are we not eating. Beets is a huge one. One thing that I don't know if you've noticed this, but before I even do any of that, we kind of have to address digestion.
Yeah.
Because
it all starts at the gut. If you're not digesting things right, then we can do whatever. I can throw 9 million supplements and you can have the healthiest diet, but it's not doing anything.
Exactly. So a lot of times I'll do, like the betaine hydrochloride with some pancreatic enzymes. A lot of times I'll order, it's a product called Zypan that I really, really like. And I'll just give that to just about everyone, just kind of as a general protocol to start. If I'm putting anyone on supplements, they've got to have that because it's just going to help everything digest. So to me, that makes sense.
Well, and the gut-brain axis is part of that conversation, right?
Oh, huge. I like to call the gut the second brain, It's really, and a lot of my clients at first don't make that connection. Yeah.
Yes. Especially, my special population is actually kids. So I love kids 3 to 12. They are my favorite because nobody who's 3 is supposed to have anxiety. And a 6-year-old, why is a 6-year-old depressed? We're definitely looking at something that started in the gut. We've got a diet issue. We've got vitamin deficiency issues. And always the conversation with parents is this starts with what we're putting into our body and educating about the gut-brain axis and why this is so important, especially now when we are so young they've still got all of the stem cells reproducing and being able to heal things. This is the time for us to actually do something that's going to impact them forever.
And I just have a weird, this is kind of an off, maybe partially off topic question, maybe a little sensitive, so I hope your audience don't mind. But have you noticed a difference between a C-section delivery and the child's gut health versus a natural vaginal delivery?
Absolutely. So when I'm doing my intake with kids, those are part of the questions. So I go back to pregnancy. How old were both parents? Were there any health complications during the pregnancy? And for the pregnancy's delivery, was it vaginal or was it C-section? And that is because when we do not have a vaginal birth, we actually don't get all of that bacteria from the vaginal cavity. If you don't have a midwife that knows, they won't wipe the vaginal cavity and put it on the baby's face. And we really need them to do that. That lays the foundation for the gut. And that's why vaginal delivery is so, so important.
It's interesting how, and these are things that maybe 10, 15 years ago, no one was thinking about. So it's really interesting over time as we learn more, that the more we learn, the more we think about, and the more we think about, the more questions we have to learn more.
Yeah, one of the other red flags that I'm always looking for when I do an intake on a child is, were they born with jaundice? Because if they had jaundice at birth, mom already has a detox issue, and now we've passed that down to the infant. So we know right away we do need to do some type of liver support in this particular situation.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think we're on the same page on a lot of this stuff. This is great.
Yeah, with women, are you doing any genetic testing for like MTHFR, all of those things in the background? Are you focused mostly on like vitamins and hormones?
I'm mostly focusing on the nutrition and the hormones. You know, I know a little bit about the genetic testing, probably just enough to be dangerous, if you know what I mean. So, you know, I'm going to leave that to someone else that's really more passionate about that and more expert in that. I'm passionate about the nutrition, and so that's really my focus. And sometimes they'll ask me, "You're a male doctor. What do you know about women's health, and why are you going after women?" And I have to tell them, you know what? Men are not nearly as complicated, not nearly as, I hate to say fun, but mentally engaging. It's fun. And they're really an underserved population. And a lot of times they're simply dismissed by doctors, therapists, or whatever. They're dismissed. And so I like to be an advocate for them, because some of them may not have a voice. Some of them, hormones are complicated. And
Absolutely.
a lot of the women that I work with, they don't know. They haven't been educated about how the complexity of all their hormones.
Right.
And so to be able to kind of break it down and explain things a little bit, to me, that's really rewarding, because I actually feel like I'm helping someone that has been, tossed by the wayside. And I think it's unfortunate. And so that's why I'm kind of in this space, because I think that they're underserved.
The other part with women that gets so overlooked by so many physicians is women have caregiver fatigue, and that compassion fatigue. And that is something that's very unique to women. It's not something that carries over to men. And I feel like there's such a link to that with their chronic pain issues.
Absolutely. I've had to tell, I have to give tough love sometimes to my clients, and I have to tell them, say, hey, you've got to take care of yourself first, because if you're not taking care of yourself, no one else is taking care of you. And if you're not taken care of, how in the world are you supposed to take care of everything and everybody else?
Yeah.
You can't do it. You're not being selfish. You're improving your capacity to help others, taking care of yourself. And once we kind of reframe that, they're like, okay, I can do this.
I have to have that conversation with moms, because, working with kids that are 3 to 12, and these kiddos, they're throwing temper tantrums, they've got anxiety, ADHD, whatever it is that we're trying to, clear. I always have to have that conversation with moms of, there is no way for you to parent a child that seems like a difficult child right now if you're not taking care of yourself. Because your reactions, they're big. So your child is now learning big reactions.
Yeah.
And it's not helping the situation while we try to work through the detoxification, fixing nutrition, fixing sleep, all of that.
Yeah. And it's sometimes a difficult but necessary conversation to have. You're not selfish. Have you noticed that that's a really big one? They feel selfish because they're working on
Yes.
themselves.
Like I'm a mom. I'm a homeschool mom. I'm running a business. I'm a wife. I've got all of these things that are on me all the time. And I want to say 2 years ago, I really started to notice, you know what? Every time I try to do something for myself, I feel bad for doing it. So I don't do it.
Mhm.
We had a conversation as a family that I'm doing all of these things to help other people. So I have to do the stuff to take care of me because I can't help everybody else if I'm sick.
Yeah, I love that story. That is absolutely, and it's something that we see all the time. I love it.
Yep. And I'm lucky my kids will call if I'm at work too late and be like, Mom, you're supposed to be home by now.
That's awesome. That's great. So you've got that support system.
I-
I've noticed that the people that have, at least for my clients, the ones that have a good, healthy support system,
Mhm.
they do better.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, I'm happy that I'm at least one person on their team that is rooting for them because sometimes they don't have anyone.
Yep. No, I hear that a lot too from moms that we're working with. So when you're doing hormone testing, are you leaning on like Dutch testing or do you have a specific panel that you prefer?
I run a full blood panel because as we learn in school that you can't just take one test all by itself. You've got to do multiple tests. And so, yeah, I do a standard blood lab that's CBC, CMP, liver enzymes. So I do all of those basic checks, but then I just add on cortisol, insulin, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. A lot of people, a lot of women wonder why I test testosterone because that's a male hormone, right?
It's so important for women though.
It's so important for women. It so often gets overlooked. So I always test testosterone. DHEA is a big one that doesn't usually get tested. So yeah, I test a lot of those hormones. 7 main ones that are thyroid, of course. Those are the 7 main hormones that contribute to chronic pain. So those are the ones that I really test for.
So what is your healthy range for testosterone? Like of course, in combination with all of the other hormones for women. Because
I don't remember the exact numbers.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I do everything so I try to automate as much as possible.
Okay.
Because the more automations I have, the more people I can help. And so I have a report that I can at a glance is color coded. I look at it and I can tell whether it's in the normal optimal range, whether it's within the normal but outside the optimal range, whether it's outside of the normal range, quote unquote normal, or if it's a critical level. So all I have to do is just take a glance and I say, okay, you've got this. This is what we can do about it. So I really try to simplify the process. I don't have space in my head for that kind of minutia. So
I think everybody's different.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah. But I think everybody's different too with that.
Absolutely.
Because I've been going through perimenopause and we've been playing with all the testosterone and the estrogen and all of those things. When my testosterone is, under 50, of course, I don't feel like my brain can even function. I've got brain fog. I've got no energy. Pulling me out of bed is like impossible. I don't want to move. But if I can get my number between, 100 and 125, which is actually above what it's supposed to be for a woman typically, it is just such an amazing difference.
Yeah. And like I said, that often gets neglected, but I always check the testosterone in relation to the thyroid and the adrenals because, you're probably familiar with the HPA axis, right?
Yep.
So you've got to look at all 3 of those in order to get a really good picture. So again, it's not just the one number alone. In my experience, it's awesome that you figured out what your level is.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, everyone's going to be a little bit different. So I look more at the balancing than the actual numbers as well. So
when mine get out of balance, I know that they've gotten out of balance because my skin starts breaking out again and I can't sleep.
Yeah. It's crazy. A lot of women, at least my clients, don't recognize that their skin issues can tell a lot about what's going on with their hormones and nutrients and all of that balance. Occasionally I'll get someone that says, ever since I started this, my skin is so clear.
Because everything's in balance and working the way that it's supposed to.
Amazing. Yeah. And I can even tell, just personally, when I start noticing things on my face, blemishes or whatever, that like, okay, I've been bad this week. I got to try to fix that. But we're all human. We all have our good days and bad days. And when I get those reports, like, well, that wasn't really good this week, I say, well, next week we'll do better. You just need that little bit of encouragement to say.
So you also said that you do the cortisol test. So when you're ordering the cortisol, are you doing a single snapshot? Are you doing a 24-hour? Like, what is the one that you prefer for that?
So just for ease, since I do all the blood work, I just do a morning cortisol.
Okay.
And that's the only one I check. If I think that it's going to be a problem, then I'll go ahead and order the full 24-hour cortisol. But I'm going to start with the simple ones. It's cost effective. They just go in for the single blood draw and we get everything. But if we do need the extra testing, I have those at my disposal. So I can do the saliva hormone testing if I'd like to. I prefer the blood. Again, it's just kind of a one-stop shop. I get more compliance. It's easier because these women, they're busy. They don't have time to do all of this stuff. They're exhausted. If we try to make it as simple as possible, we're actually going to be able to help them better. So I start off with the AM cortisol. And if I feel like that we need to do additional testing, I'll recommend it. But a lot of times, once we start working, it naturally comes back. So I try to limit my testing because a lot of times once we start correcting one thing, we're going to see a cascade and it's going to start kind of balancing everything else out. So I don't always recommend these, $600, $700, $800 tests. Why don't we just get a simple baseline, see where we're at, start working on things. And then as we get better and we need more advanced testing, we want to start fine tuning everything, then we can start looking at some of this other stuff.
So are you using at all the constant glucose monitors? Because I am seeing with some people, there's such an overlap between their high stress levels and that cortisol and how it's impacting their blood sugars.
Absolutely, there's a connection. I don't have them like I said, I keep my testing really, really simple. But yeah, because a lot of times I test insulin, which isn't really tested a lot.
Yep.
So I'll look at the glucose, I'll look at the A1C, I'll look at the insulin, and I'll look at the cortisol and the DHEA to get a really good picture about how all of that is going. So again, try to keep things as simple as possible. We know that cortisol and glucose go hand in hand.
I have some clients that we use the biometrics with because they need data and they want constant data. I have some women that we recommend the constant glucose monitor. And then I tell them in their app, while you're looking at your levels and you're seeing these spikes, you need to think about what were you thinking about in that moment? Is that actually only a sugar spike or was that a high stress moment and we just got flooded by cortisol that caused that interaction?
That's a great take on it.
It's also interesting. Like we have one client that indicated that they noticed that if they ate while working, their sugar spiked. We said, okay, well, don't eat while working. I want you to walk to the other side of your desk and just sit there and eat or go on a walk and see how that impacts your blood sugar levels. And their levels stayed.
Yes, I'm a huge fan of that, by the way. Taking your time with eating, because, a lot of, you hit something on the head. It's not just about what you eat, it's about how you eat too.
Yeah.
And I've seen a study, you might be interested in this, but there was, I can't remember. I'm going to have to find it again and send it over to you. But there's a study that showed that the people that drank shakes versus people that actually ate food.
Yep.
Have you heard any studies like that?
So I haven't heard any studies about that, like specifically, but that makes sense. That makes sense though, because the jaw itself, that movement of chewing is what helps us with digestion. It stimulates all of these nerves that have an impact on how we're actually digesting food. They impact all of these different nerve endings. And eating for us is so important. It is an important thing for human beings, especially socially eating and being in happy environments while we're eating. So that does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, I'll have to find that and send it over to you.
Thank you.
Were you talking about that? I don't know if that would make sense to any of your audience.
Absolutely. I love the vagus nerve. We actually just recently purchased a vagus nerve stimulator so that we can start integrating that for some clients that can't seem to get out of fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
If we can use the vagus nerve stimulator, you only need it for a few minutes, and just to have that is amazing.
Yeah. Do you use like ashwagandha or kava or anything like that in your practice? Yeah, that's fantastic. Love it.
Are you guys doing any stuff with the vagus nerve in your chiropractic practice?
I'm not doing a lot of the chiropractic work anymore. I've actually moved right on over because a couple reasons. One, after 16 years of doing adjustments, it's a physical job and I want my body to last for another good 30 years if possible. And second, for me, it's a lot more exciting I feel like I'm making more of a bigger impact working with the nutritional hormones because a lot of my clients, they'd come in, they'd get their adjustments and they're back every month, which is great, but what I found was that there's a certain percentage of my patients that weren't getting better. They weren't responding. And then once we started digging deeper, once I discovered the functional medicine and everything like that, we started digging deeper and I started noticing that hormone effect, especially with low back pain. When a woman comes in with low back pain, the adjustments aren't working, it's going to be a hormone issue, almost guaranteed. And so once we started addressing that, there goes their back pain. And that's one of the things that chiropractors see all the time is low back pain, neck pain, headaches. That's our bread and butter. But they would keep coming back and coming back, which from a business perspective is fantastic. But from a clinician, it got kind of frustrating. Like, how come they're not getting better? And that was really frustrating. And so I found that if just by doing what I do, I'm actually alleviating a lot of pain because, again, we're getting to the underlying cause again. Adjustments are great. Chiropractic treatment's great. It helps usually temporarily. But this to me is like a more permanent solution.
Well, I am so glad that you and I got to meet and have this conversation and that we ran into each other. I think we found each other on Facebook.
Yeah. Facebook's, there's a love-hate relationship with Facebook.
All right. So if any of our viewers want to reach out to you because they are a woman that is in that age group that's looking for a little bit of help, how do they find you?
It's easy. Shepherd Functional Health. Sure.
We'll make sure we attach everything when the post goes out.
Yep. Shepherd Functional Health. SHEPHERD functionalhealth.com. And if they go onto that website, the first thing that they're going to see is an ebook. Top 10 foods. It's actually just a PDF guide on the top 10 foods that help decrease the chronic pain and balance hormones naturally. And that's a free gift. All they have to do is put in their name, their email, and we'll send them a copy of that for absolutely free. No strings attached. If they provide their phone number, it does ask for the phone number. It's optional. They don't have to put it in if they don't want. But if they want to, they'll put it in, and then we can reach out via text as well to make sure that they got the PDF downloaded. And if they have any questions, they can ask about that. That's a wonderful resource, a great place to start. It's not going to get you all the way there, but it's really a good place to start. Top 10 foods to start eating if you're not eating those already.
Awesome.
And I'm on Facebook.
Include all those links, and we'll make sure that we get all that out there for everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. This was really a fun conversation.
Thank you so much for joining us. And for all of our viewers, please make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and follow so you know when the next video is available.